This conference will now be recorded.
ಮನುಷ್ಯಗಳಾಗಿ ಸಮಾಜಕ್ಕೆ ಕೊಡುಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೊಡುಗೆ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತಿರಲೇ ಇರಬೇಕು.
Yeah, already I'm seeing myself on the camera in the preview. Are you able to see me? Yeah, I've been clicking on the camera. No, nothing.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? Mr. Lakshmipati, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. We'll start the meeting now. Good morning, everyone. I am Rajni Jain from editorial team of agricultureinformation.com. The duration of this meeting will be of about 30 to 40 minutes. I request all the participants to mute themselves to avoid background noise. You can either be on audio or video call. Sharing of the videos is individual preferences. I now request the moderator, Mr. Lakshmipati, to start the meeting and introduce the speaker. Thank you. Mr. Lakshmipati, let's start.
Good morning, everyone. I am Lakshmipati. I'll be moderating this meeting. I like to welcome Professor S. Ayyappan to this meeting. He will be speaking on the topic, my experience with agricultural research, education, and extension in India. First, the speaker will talk briefly about the topic. Then the participants will be able to ask questions. Questions can also be added to the chat window. I now request the speaker to begin.
Yeah, good morning to everybody. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are, sir. You are audible. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, colleagues, friends, and at the outset, I'd like to thank agriinformatics.com for this opportunity. And then I believe there are people with similar interests in Indian agriculture, and we would like to have a discussion. It's not a speech or a talk. It is an interaction session. So as much as you would like to hear me, I would also like to hear you. And then maybe in the next 45 minutes or so, see how we go about further in Indian agriculture. So once again, thanks and welcome to all of you. Greetings from me. We all know how Indian agriculture has come a long way. Agriculture in this country, as you would appreciate, is definitely an important sector of the economy, but more important is it's a way of life. It's a way of life for most of us. Agriculture, it's the best of cultures. There is no culture without agriculture. I'm sure you would agree with that, because from the time 10,000 years ago, somewhere agriculture farming started near Turkey, and from that time, and South Asia also has a history of 5,000 years of agriculture. So now we start with that, and coming to current topics, again, it's a matter of facts that you might be knowing. The Indian subcontinent, the South Asia, the country, we have about 2.4% of the global land and just about 4% of water. But we must appreciate that we sustain something like 17% of the global human population and at least 11% of the animal, the livestock population in this roughly about 327 million hectares of land mass that we have. And as we go further, we are aware that the contribution of agriculture to the Indian GDP is of the order of about 14 to 15%. It used to be higher at the time of independence 75 years ago, nearly 75 years ago. But now with the business, the service sector, the industry, all that coming up, so its present contribution is about 15%. But what is important is even today, more than 50% of the Indian population is dependent on farming in different forms. On primary agriculture, half the country's population, 65 crore people, are still absolutely dependent on agriculture. Last 3 months of Corona have brought up several things you might be knowing. While all other sectors were greatly impacted. Of course, it is the KPMG's assessment, it is the Moody's assessment globally. While the industry took such a hit, the two sectors that were active, that remained active, were one is health, and they had to be active, health sector. Second is farming, agriculture, food production systems in different forms. No farmer gave up, in spite of all the difficulties. Now that brings in great resilience to the economy of any country. Now, as you would again appreciate in the coming 2 to 3 years, I'm telling you, talking about years, other sectors, whether it's transportation or the industry in general. Now, while that would take easily 2 to 3 years time to come back, the food production systems will continue. I mean, that's what is important. That's where we require to focus, invest, integrate, and innovate. So we already are contributing so much. As I said, this country is supporting 130 crore people, daily with at least 2 to 3 times of food. I mean, these are all things that we normally don't appreciate, because food is there. We take food for granted, but this is what is happening in the backyards of this country. Farmer producing both terrestrial and aquatic systems. It's very important when we talk of agriculture. We normally think agriculture means, the public perception is it's the food grains. Yes, absolutely food grains. It's the cereals, pulses, oil seeds, rice, wheat, maize, and so on. But then I'd like to mention here, when it has all other components of horticulture, the livestock, dairy, meat, milk, fish, egg, and fish, aquatic systems, and so on. So, what is important today is when we talk of statistics, agricultural statistics, you see the media, every time they report, yeah, we produce 292, the latest figure is about something like 292 million tons of food grains, and it stops there. But you please appreciate, this country definitely has more than 100 million tons of rice every year, nearly that much of wheat, then maize, then pulses. We are large importers, but in the recent past we have been able to reach something like 23 million tons. So the deficit that we are running with pulses is only of the order of 1 to 2 million tons. And then oil seeds, of course, 50% is import. Now this is with regard to food grains. But when you talk of horticulture, fruits, vegetables, and so on, fruits itself is nearly 100 million ton. Vegetable is nearly 200 million tons. So this is another 340, 350 million tons of fruits, vegetables, tuber crops, and so on. That is the horticulture. Then milk is about 170 million tons. Fish more than 12, nearly 13 million tons. Meat about 8 million tons. So if we put together all this, it is not just the 290 million tons of food grains. It is nearly 800 million tons of food. This is very important. I keep repeating to the media every time, don't report food as just 290 or 280 million tons. It is virtually 800 million tons of food from different sectors of agriculture. So we should, it's very important. The FAO's definition is agriculture is any method of food production, be it terrestrial or aquatic. So we should appreciate this point. Colleagues and friends, at this time, we are also COVID is one thing, but at the same time, last few years you have been seeing we are into a lot of stresses, both abiotic stresses and biotic stresses. Abiotic stresses in terms of climate change. All of us know 10 years back we only started talking of climate change. We thought it would not impact us, but today, not only temperature rise, the infrequent rainfall, the rainfall quantity might not have reduced, but the frequency has definitely changed. The seasons have got postponed. So to that extent, we may have to have a kind of, we may have to reimagine, reimage the agriculture, starting from sowing, plowing, sowing, and so on. Now, so climate change is very much there. The land and water degradation. This is global. These are global, not only Indian, and very much, very particularly, there is a big stress in agriculture in this country too, See, I would like to mention our total cultivable area is about 142 million hectares. 140 plus or 2 or plus or minus 2 million hectares. Now you would appreciate again the land is going away to real estate, many other things. So now we are in the coming years we may be left with just 140 million hectares of land, and there again every time we talk of yield levels, productivity, people keep comparing Indian productivity with Chinese productivity or Brazil and so on. But China is comparable. But when we talk of US or Brazil, you would appreciate again their large farms, a soybean farm, a wheat farm could be, or a maize farm in US could be 5,000 acres. Now our main challenge is small farmer holdings. 82% of our small farmers, as I said, 65 crore people, about 13 to 14 million farming families. So per capita is not even 1 acre. So even if we assume a family as a unit, so our small farmers are less than 5 acres of land, and that is 82%. Our estimate is by 2030, we may be nearly 90% will be small holdings. Small holders are also important. Small holders are very important because they contribute more than 65% to the food grain food basket. And small farmers have an advantage in family farming. See, that is one precarious issue today in the rural areas is labor costs, lot of migration that has happened to the cities. Now in the COVID context, many people, lakhs of people are returning to villages. Now that is the challenge, whether we can retain them in agriculture in the Kharif season in the next 3 to 6 months. Can we skill them? Can we excite them that they should stay back in the villages? Otherwise, we have the same problem now. So the point is, the small farmer holdings and climate change, land and water degradation, then biotic stresses. You must have heard of army worm in Karnataka itself on maize during the last 3 months, or you heard of the locust problem in northern India, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra. Fortunately, it did not come to Karnataka. Locust. No, lot of new biotic stresses, new insects, new pathogens coming in. So these are all problems that we have to be continuously working on. Biotic abiotic stresses. Then small farmer holdings, there is no much mechanization, labor costs are high. So the farm mechanization, not just the farm mechanization of the United States or Brazil, as I said, large farms. What we require is customized farm machinery, implements, and that is where we are trying to look at this scenario as a canvas for research or extension and so or education and so on. Now, next point is the harvest and post-harvest losses. How much do we, whatever we harvest, and I mentioned about the figures, whether it's a crop commodity or a fruit or vegetables, our harvest and post-harvest losses are also very high. Temperature, humidity levels, handling, storage limitations, transport, logistics. So with all these, our loss rates are anywhere between 6 to 18%. These are the estimates. So every year, at least 1 lakh crore rupees worth agri produce are lost in harvesting and post-harvesting. Now this is where we require strong storage, strong cold chains, and so on. So the issues are right from seed to market in agriculture. No, this is the canvas. These are the issues. These are the limitations, and this is where we are looking for new agriculture. Now, as you would appreciate, in agriculture, what do we start with? I already mentioned it is stress agriculture. Next, we are talking of specialty agriculture. Can we move from low value crops to high value crops? Already a lot of it is happening. As I said, horticulture and many other things that are happening. Then ours is also from stress agriculture. Can we also move to precision farming? Can you must have seen a few polyhouses, controlled atmosphere and all that. Now, all that is not possible, but then in India, fortunately, we have more than a nearly 130 different agro ecosystems, right from Himachal to Kanyakumari. Now, in Karnataka, for example, there are 10 different agroclimatic zones, agroecological regions. So that gives a lot of scope of farming. Fortunately, our biodiversity is also very high. Very few countries can claim we have more than 10% of the global biodiversity. in case of plants, as also in animals, in aquatic species. Now, one is the strength is the biodiversity, but as I said already, degradation is also a negative point I just mentioned. But our strength is this kind of biodiversity. Can we bring in more crops, more varieties? Now, when we talk of varieties, high yielding varieties, disease resistant varieties, or biofortified varieties in the context of malnutrition. I would also like to mention India, with all this, you must be hearing all the time, in the global hunger index. We are again very, very low. We have a lot of malnutrition. More than 60% of the children, pregnant women, lactating mothers, they are anemic. They have malnutrition. So now, can we address in terms of good food? Much of it, what we produced in the last few decades, is all starch. We mainly produce rice, wheat, maize, and so on. Now the emphasis is on starch to protein. Protein in different forms. It could be milk, it could be egg, it could be fish, it could be pulses. So what? So the requirement is a shift from from the traditional farming to precision farming, from primary agriculture to secondary agriculture, from starch to protein, from agriculture to agri-business. Because the post-harvest, after that, our main problem has been price realization for the farmer. Our granaries are full, but our farmer is hungry. It's a paradox. Farmer produces, and then but he or she doesn't get the price. So this is what we are worried about: seed to market. So in the market context, market access and actual prices, in spite of all the minimum support prices and all that we announce, the actual realization for the farmer is a problem. So that is where we are looking at sustainable farming, at the same time remunerative farming. When we talk of remunerative farming, there are different methods in this country. For example, that's where I said so many agroecological zones, where people talk of traditional farming, they talk of organic farming, they talk of Israeli types. Some people are now talking of zero budget natural farming. So it goes on and on. So, but what we are interested is in a specific district, in a specific village. If I am a farmer, I am worried mostly about my plot. And this is where we are looking into new technologies. It could be remote sensing, it could be geoinformatics, spatial applications, sensors, drones. And now we are talking of the blockchain technologies. Now all these, they're in different forms are helping the farmer, or at least a fraction of the farmers today. I understand, as I said, the canvas is huge. 13, with 13 crore, 130 million, 13 crore farming families, 130 million farming families. Now to reach them, their economic spread is quite huge. Some, maybe 10-15% of the farmers are well to do and they can invest for whatever is required. Others look for credits, loans, schemes, government schemes, and so on. Now this is where we are talking of integrated farming systems. Whatever we have in different regions, can we integrate? Can we integrate different farming systems? It could be crops with horticulture, with the dairy. As I said, this is what is emerging. Simple ragi come cattle, dairy is good enough. So we are seeing several integrated farming systems emerging across the country, across the state of Karnataka, where the average income could be easily doubled. Now, the point is, in the last 5 years, you must be hearing about repeatedly the paradigm of doubling farmers' income. Doubling farmers' income. Now, we have been debating, we have been validating, we have been demonstrating different kinds of models. As I said, integration to the extent possible. There could be 6 to 8 components, but the simple things are 2 to 3 components can be easily, because a traditional Indian farmer has a small piece of land, a few livestock. It could be cattle, it could be sheep, it could be goats, it could be poultry, it could be pigs. Now, this is the recycling, organic recycling, waste recycling, and integration of farming systems has greatly enhanced the income levels. Now, this is where we are now looking into precision farming, integrated farming. Then again, when we come to specifics, for example, good seed, everything, it starts with land, it starts with good irrigation, then good seed, good farming practices. That means, controlling pests and diseases. Then at the right time, good harvest procedures, could be mechanized, could be labor, managed, and then next is good storage, then good packaging, and then next to reaching to the market. These are all the steps that we all know of in any product. But what is missing is in Indian agriculture, the value addition. The value addition, the kind of, the requirements of food safety in the recent years, packaging. So many times we discuss, when we talk of Indian agriculture, it is not just agriculture. It is much beyond the farm, much beyond the farmer, much beyond agriculture itself. And that is where we are repeatedly talking about agribusiness. And this is where we talked of stakeholders. Stakeholders, definitely at the center is the farmer. But then when you look at, the scheme of things, when you start doing farming nowadays, I'm really happy that many of the engineers, software engineers, others, come every week. I get 1 or 2 persons here in a city like Bangalore or wherever. They would like to get into farming in different methods. Now, when they look at things, it's a lot of synergy is required. So in case of ministries and departments also, we have been talking of synergy. So when we looked at agriculture, it starts with, the land and revenue department, the water, power, energy. Then from there it starts. Then agriculture itself, then animal husbandry, fisheries, sericulture. I can go on. You're all familiar with that. Then it gets into agri marketing, then food processing, so and so on. So we have been talking of a integrated agri cabinet in every state. Instead of just agriculture ministry working on it, an integrated agri cabinet would be very good. Now, in this further as we go along, the problems in marketing. So the schemes of farmer producer organizations were promoted, FPOs in different forms. There were farmer interest groups, commodity interest groups, then farmer producer organizations, farmer producer companies. So several of them have come up. Now it's also very interesting to know a new breed of startups. In agriculture also, agri startups, youngsters. I see 80% of the agri startups today are being managed by engineers who have the basic know-how with regard to engineering inputs. Not exactly farming, but engineering inputs. It could be land conservation, it could be water management, it could be aggregation, it could be new tools, as I mentioned, of science and technology, imaging, for example, into agriculture. So they have started. So now the composite of things, farmer producer organizations, startups, and so on. So now these are all coming into picture. So when you ask me to talk specifically on research, education, and extension, now when it comes to research, yeah, there is the National Agricultural Research System, where basically, yeah, 100 and odd agricultural research institutes of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, more than 70 agriculture universities at the states, and some central agriculture universities. Then what are called as Krishi Vigyan Kendras, district science centers in all the rural districts of the country. So this constitutes the National Agriculture Research System. But I have been telling repeatedly, whoever is interested in agriculture, they belong to this family. It's not necessary that only institutions by name, but whoever is interested. Lot of NGOs are there, lot of corporate sector R&D is going on. Now, if you take Bosch, for example, Infosys, you talk of Microsoft, anybody, so they're all getting interested, or Wipro, they're getting into some kind of farming, precision farming, hydroponics, for example, the sensors, as I mentioned. So now this whole thing constitutes. That's why I keep telling agriculture is everybody's business. Agriculture is everybody's business, not just the farmers. As long as we want to eat, as long as we want to survive, we have to eat, and we are stakeholders of the food production system. So all of us are equal partners. You would not believe, in 1927, even before freedom, the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, came to Bangalore to undergo a 2-week training program in dairy science in Adugodi, here itself. So he, along with the founder of the Banaras Hindu University, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, both of them came for 2 weeks of dairy training program. Now that is the importance Mahatma gave to the food production system. He said, for the hungry, food is God. For the hungry, God is food. There is no other God. So that's the kind of basic premise and principle, fortunately, this country has been working on. And fortunately, the entire leadership has been very supportive, because without food, there is nothing, there is no other sector of economy would work. So why I'm making these points is, while we have a good amount of store nearly buffer stock of nearly 60 million tons of food grains. There can be no complacency. In the future, countries would trade with any other things, but not would not trade food. So we have to be self-reliant in all aspects, not just the food grain component. The protein malnutrition is staring at us all the time. So what kind of generations we would produce in the next 20 to 30 years? That's where we brought up vision documents for 2030, for 2050. Now by 2050, what we think is the population of this country will be easily 140 crore, and the land area would have reduced. Water would become very precarious. Now there will be at least 90% of the small farmers among our holdings. Now, so given all this, we have to concentrate with new varieties, high yielding varieties, and then as I said, maybe there could be discussions on GM crops and whatever. That's another thing. So, but point is high yield at the same time high nutrition. It cannot be one at the cost of each other because there are penalties. So both yield and nutrition in crops, and organoleptic qualities, taste should be there, all this. So now, given these things, so in the coming years by 2050, our job is to produce at least 50% more. Our estimate is from 290 today, at least 350 million tons of food grains have to be there in the country. Similarly, all other food production systems accordingly. So for this to happen, we have to have high science, high technologies into it, and whatever new things can come in, there should be a strong synergy. Agriculture cannot be in isolation. So whoever can give anything to in terms of natural resource management, in terms of varietal improvement, in terms of fertilizer and then nutrition, and then in terms of integration, processing, and then that's where we brought up for doubling farmers' income. We said you first cluster the farms. Small farms should be clustered to get advantage. Second is integrate. Third is diversify. Fourth is process as much as possible, add value. And then next is have a good packaging is also important. Concentrate on food safety, get into quality assurance, then get to markets both domestic and international, and get that price. So now an integrated approach in this way only can get us to a sustainable and remunerative farming. And in this direction, our universities today, roughly about 1 lakh students come out of the agriculture universities every year, 1 lakh. And that includes masters and PhDs. And then, so this 1 lakh, so we have been working on this also. Friends, I would like to mention here, many times we discuss what is the research intensity in every country. I would like to mention here in India, for per million population, we have about 160 scientists. Scientists means researchers per million population, 160. If you take if you compare with some other country, maybe even China, for example, it is more than 600. Then global average is nearly 2000. And this 160 is not just in agriculture. It includes all dimensions of science, space, atomic energy, defense, and so on. So the point we are making is the research intensity, that is where research intensity in every field has to be increased, and that's where we are telling everybody who is interested in agriculture is a researcher. For example, I have seen in villages when we go there, so much of innovations happening. Our farmers who do not have degrees, but because they are in the farm 24/7, whether they are with the dairy or with the pomegranate or grape, they keep innovating so much. So our effort now is not only science and technology, but also innovation. Innovation by anybody and everybody in the society. Whoever can bring in new ideas and then may do things differently, enhance productivity, bring in confidence, hope, for the youth. Because main problem in the coming years would be jobs and jobs. Now, in agriculture, can we absorb more people? And the COVID, in fact, in the last 3 months, has given us already so much experience. When the youth have come back, when they have been shown, some small aspects where they can get 15,000 rupees to 20,000 rupees per month, the same thing they were earning in the cities as security, as hotel and in hotels and so on. Now there, at least a few of them are getting convinced that I can stay in a good place like a village if there's a good connectivity. And if there is money in worth the investment, worth the job, worth the efforts, anybody would stay back. So our efforts would be, we have to look back at the villages. We have to look to farming as not just a charity, not as a service, just the service. It is actually, it should be a business model. So that's why we said we have no hesitation to make the subsistence farming into commercial farming. So these are some intentions. I can go on, but then the point at this time is the future is food security, nutritional security, not just food security, nutritional security, job for the youth and women, the equity that we have to get in agriculture, and farmers today are talking of PPP. You know, you all PPP, you know, public-private partnership. But for the farmer, it is profit, definitely profit. Next is, he says, prestige. Today the farmer wants prestige, you know, respect for the farmer, and then the partnership. So I'm sure you know you would agree with this. PPP for the farming in Indian agriculture is profit, prestige, and partnership. And all of us have to stand with the food producer, farmer, like we are saluting the doctors, the nurses, and the police in the times of COVID. I would request we all salute the farmer who is the food producer 24/7, 365 days, all the years for us.
Please continue. Hello, Professor Ayyappan, you may please continue. Hello, Professor Ayyappan.
Not audible. I think it's
It looks like he has gone offline.
Yeah, his mic is on, but Professor Ayyappan, can you hear me, Professor Ayyappan? Let's wait for a few seconds, please. Professor Ayyappan,
Yeah, I think we have lost him. We are trying to call him and trying to get him back again. One moment.
thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, we are calling Professor Ayyappan in just 2 minutes. He'll connect in 2 minutes.
Okay, see, hello everyone. Professor Ayyappan has got disconnected, but he's available on the phone. And if there are any questions, maybe we can you can ask them, and we'll try and see if we can, through the speakerphone, we can get him to respond from here. So, are there any participants with any questions?
Mr. Murali has got a question, sir. He has already
Yes,
raised a
Mr. Murali,
question.
please go
Can I
ahead. Please
request
go
Mr.
ahead.
Murali to go ahead with this question? Mr. Murali, please come up with your question, please.
Hello.
Please go ahead, Mr. Murali.
Yeah, Professor Ayyappan, are you there?
Uh, my question is,
Yes, Mr. Murali, please go ahead. We are listening. Yes.
yeah, no, one thing is whenever we go for research findings, the good researchers found in only 1970s and 80s. We can't find very good articles after 1970s or 80s. Why the recent findings are not so good in research? Whether we should stop the research and go only the extension of available research to the farmers' doorsteps. This is my question, sir.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Murali, Mr. Murali, can you hear Professor Ayyappan talking? He's responding to you. Can you hear him?
Yes, I can hear him. Yes, I can hear
Yeah,
him.
please go ahead, Professor Ayyappan. Please go ahead. Yes.
Mr. Murali, please
Hello,
give
sir.
your
Yeah,
background.
Mr. Murali, what is your background introduction? Professor Ayyappan is asking, what's your background? If you could, share some information, it would be helpful.
myself, Murali, Chief Operations Officer for the DJ Coconut Farm Private Limited, a mandate of producing hybrid seedlings in coconut.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. You said, there were good articles. By 80, after that, we don't get to see good articles. This is your question, right?
Yes.
Correct, Professor Ayyappan. That's the question. Yes.
Very few printed journals. So you are looking at those journals. We could almost cover every journal in a matter of time. Now post 80, post 90, particularly post 2000 is virtually an information explosion, both in terms of printed journals as well as a number of e-journals. So a lot of articles keep getting printed. It's not that there are no good articles, but the point is there is a huge number of articles which get published both on online and so that's where the abstracting services also have to be correspondingly enhanced. I understand when there is too much information, we lose out the good information. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next question, please. Next question.
Sir, this is Ashish here.
Yeah, Ashish, please go ahead, Mr. Ashish. We're listening. Yes.
Yeah, sir, my question is from sir is he's saying the engineers are entering into farming, but I don't find the students who are actually doing BSc agriculture or maybe MSc in agriculture, they are actually doing any agri businesses in my area especially. And there are 3 universities in my area where every year I think more than 100 people are getting out of after BSc agriculture, but they are not in this field. That is my first question, sir. And second thing is that we talk about you talk about so many technologies which are existing for integrating agriculture and all. I just want to know specific technologies because when we have to speak to the farmers, they actually need the technology. They don't need the literature where it is existing or not. Finally, we have to teach them. Somebody has to teach them because now when it's told that COVID area, so many people came back to their houses back, and if we have to motivate them, they need, sir. Finally, they need what to do. That has to talk to them.
Right. Mr. Ashish, one moment.
Yeah, Mr. Ashish.
Sir, I'm listening.
One moment, Mr. Ashish. I think Professor.
Yeah, Mr.
You wanted to
Lakshmipathy,
come
I'm back on the screen.
Okay,
Please
great,
put on the
excellent.
video,
Thank
sir.
you,
Please put
Professor
on the
Ayyappan.
video.
Yes, please go ahead.
You had
Yes.
come briefly on the video. Please put on your video,
Yeah.
please. We would like to have you on the video.
Yeah,
You had come on
I
the
have put it
video.
on. I put on the camera. Yeah, am I seen now?
No.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
we
Yes,
can.
sir.
Yeah,
We can
Now.
see you now.
Yeah, finally. Now.
yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Ashish,
Sir.
may have your background, please?
Sir, I'm a retired young naval officer, and right now I'm working for sustainable agriculture and food security from last 3 years. I have tried through projects also, but to convince farmers and to integrate their produce to the market is the biggest challenge I'm facing for last 3 years. I've
Yeah,
connected to
very
so
good.
many scientists also around
Yeah.
maybe around the world. I can say not. I will not say only in India itself. I have visited
Okay.
around 43 countries during my tenure in Navy, and I was very keen to learn about agriculture and new technologies. The way those people are working, that is totally different. Their demand is different, their supply chain is different, and their wastage of food is minimal, which is a lot in our country when we see here. And the last thing which is reaching to the money which is reaching the farmer is minimal because of our policies. We especially need to rewind our policies again, sir. We have to review them and we have to make them again. But I have felt from last 3 years, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So you have two questions. One is agricultural graduates, why are they not getting into farming? They're not in the field. That's one part. Second is the models, the supply chain, the way that it goes on, it's very different in India. These are the 2 points I think that I should need
Yes,
to
sir.
respond. Yes, yeah, Mr. Ashish, you are right. That's where I mentioned about the research intensity, the output, and all that. The number of graduates who are coming out now. So when we have made the manpower requirements for all the sectors, whether that's the agricultural departments or the farmer guides or the banks and so on and so forth, now we clearly require a minimum the double number of the graduates that we are producing now, and then the graduates also need to have a greater field orientation and the confidence that they can go back to villages, provide the services, and earn the money, as it happens in many other countries that they pay for the services, which in India is still not a very common practice. Second point is you said it. Now I compared the Indian agriculture with others in the beginning itself. The basic issue is the small farmer holdings, less than 1 acre, 2 acres, 5 acres. That's the maximum. So
So
the produce.
that is I'm about to complete.
Can
Sir,
I
we
finish?
have to.
Can
Yeah.
I
Yes.
finish?
Yes. 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 Sir. Yes. Sir. Yes.
Can
Sir.
I finish? So, one by one we can
Yes.
come in. Then you can again follow up. Now, the main problem has been the volume of the produce that comes out of every given field, or maybe the dairy unit with just 2 cows and all that. We have been comparing this. Now, this scaling up, aggregation, and then transport without much losses. Loss may not be only in terms of weight. It could be moisture loss, it could be quality loss, and all that. So here we are paying a big penalty, and this way we are talking of better supply chain management systems. Yeah, Mr. Ashish.
Sir.
Yeah,
Sir. Sir.
please.
Sir. Sir,
Yeah,
my thing is we have to build at least some kind of model where we can say we can maximize income per acre. It has to be integration of few things, which has to be as a model to be taught to the farmers, and that model has to be understood by somebody who can actually get into all the nitty-gritties of that, the basic problem which they're going to be faced, and the final thing of supply chain, which I can see to motivate initially farmers. It should be like we have to bring the producer local market. That only will happen with a small produce of maybe 10 things rather than a big produce of one thing.
yeah. Can I answer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. See, we have been assessing the number of middlemen involved in each of the commodities. It varies. It varies from just 2 middlemen to 7 middlemen in different ways. Now, the longer the supply chain, now there are more beneficiaries in between, and the value, the finally the recovery for the farmer also gets reduced. Now, this is where we are looking at streamlining the supply chains, but it depends on the kind of commodity, how perishable it is. So, this is where we are talking about robust supply chain with cold chain and so on. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do
Any
still
other participants have any questions, please?
Mr. Mahendra
Uh,
Kumar wanted to ask something. Mr. Mahendra Kumar, can you come in?
yes, good morning, Professor Ayyappan. I'm Mahendra Kumar. I've been in the retail industry for the last 30 years, specialized in retail store operations, currently working in Muscat. I am interested in getting into farming. So I just wanted to understand and to implement the best practices in farming. What are is there any place or is there any institute or is there any place for me to get into get more information, learn something, to have an organized farming I'm looking at. So any inputs from you, sir?
Mr. Mahendra Kumar, thank you very much. Where do you belong to, sir?
I'm from Bangalore, sir.
Bangalore. Okay, thank you very much. So you must be coming to Bangalore frequently. So you must be knowing the recent trends that are happening and so on. And very exciting to know that you would like to get into farming. And then our interest is, Mr. Mahendra Kumar. See, our problem with agriculture has been largely in India: low investments, low capital formation, so correspondingly low output. This has been a low input, low output enterprise. But fortunately, as I said, in somewhere in the middle, people now are interested. There are many angel investors coming in. People from industry even are coming into agriculture. The point here is they have the capacity to invest. So once you start investing from seed to market completely, there are possibilities. Otherwise, there are issues in agriculture. So with your interest, you can choose the kind of farming you want to do. First of all, you can decide that's why I asked you where you belong to, which district you want to go to, and then now the recent last 1 week's amendments to the land acquisition laws in the state of Karnataka enables anybody to acquire land. That's the thing that happened just a week back. The rules are still to be formulated. So now that is one opportunity. Second thing is you have to decide. See, people decide on vegetables. Vegetables are very attractive nowadays, both for domestic and international markets. They decide on long-term perennial crops. It may be, it may be drumstick, it may be perennial fruits. So it starts. So you can discuss, you can discuss and decide what kind of farming, or you can go for integration depending on the water source you have. So in Bangalore itself, we have good Indian Institute of Horticulture Research and the Agriculture University in Bangalore. So two institutions definitely, when you come, we can arrange for linkages and discussions. Thank you, Mr. Mahendra Kumar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor.
Next question, please. Mr. Shirish has got a
Yeah,
question. Please, Shirish.
thank you. Yeah, Professor Ayyappan, this is Shirish. I'm based out of Hyderabad, Telangana. I've been working in a corporate for a very long time, quit my job and trying to get into agriculture. Basically, I wanted to get into organic goat farming. But again, the trade-off was very different from the environment of AC, MNC culture, trying to graze sheep and goats that didn't actually match. So I tried to get into agriculture. Now I'm basically thinking about getting into contract farming for fruits and vegetables. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Shirish, thank you very much. You mentioned about goat and sheep farming in Anantapur district, for example, where you in Andhra Pradesh now. There are people doing very good sheep farming. Sheep and groundnut are the main things that happen in Anantapur district, a dry district like Anantapur. Now, one Mr. Acharya, very near between Bangalore, very near Mysore, has been doing goat farming. I mean, goat farming not for meat. Very interesting. He sells goat milk. 1 liter of milk is 300 rupees. Every day he produces 200 liters of goat milk and sells in Bangalore. And that is straight 60,000 rupees per day. And a lot of labor involved, I understand all that. But even then, a net profit of something like 10,000 rupees per day. I mean, that's one example. So goat farming and sheep farming are still profitable. You can look at it. Now, next is contract farming. Which commodity you would like to propagate, and which is the region? How many farmers would you like to bring into your fold? And then there are nowadays, by now, there are legal frameworks also for contract farming. For how many years you will do this? I mean, these kinds of things have come in, though informally. So you can discuss all this, and maybe we can give more inputs as you go along for contract farming. Thank you.
Mr. Shirish, you got the answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Professor Ayyappan, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful being a part of this session. I mean, you have told everything from the history of agriculture up to the blockchain technology. I mean, I haven't seen any discussion being so intensive about everything about agriculture. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank Miss Rao, you have any question? Mr. Chandrasekhar, Miss Rao, you have any question? Mr. Benikal Naganagaud, Mr. Umravadi, Miss Rao, please come out.
No. Thank you. Nothing. I do not have. At the present, at the moment, I do not have. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chandrasekhar, you have any question? Mr. Chandrasekhar? Sorry. Okay, Mr. Benikal Naganagaud, you have any question? Mr. Chandrasekhar, you have any question?
Yes, sir.
Please ask.
May I know the prospects for food processing industry in small scale? Food processing.
Food processing. Food processing
Yes.
sector. Mr. Chandrasekhar, may I know your background, please?
I'm actually government employee retired, and there is a horticulture belt at our district at Bagalkot.
Oh, okay.
That lots of fruits are growing there, but preservation problem is there.
Yeah, right. In Bagalkot, for example, in Hiriyur, for example, in the state of Karnataka, there are food parks. There are food parks set up by the Ministry of Food Processing Industries, both center and state. So they lease out, small plots of land. For example, if you go to Hiriyur Food Park, they have gherkin, a new vegetable which is exported in brine. So if Bagalkot, I have been there several times. As you said, lot of good fruits coming up. Now there are two methods of doing. One, you can go for a primary processing, small scale processing, as you said. Yeah, for example, if it is mango, just take out the pulp. If it is pomegranate, just go for the seed extraction and then give the areole separately. So there are different methods of doing. Now, one thing is you would require some amount of training. In Bagalkot itself, we have a good horticulture university in Bagalkot itself. So you can go there and contact, get some minimum training, and then you may require to have some machinery procured. Then also link up with the wholesalers who take this and further make products. So this is the way to go about. And for details, please contact the University of Horticultural Sciences, Bagalkot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Keshav has just come in. You have any question for Professor Ayyappan, Mr. Keshav? Mr. Keshav? Okay, Professor Ayyappan, we have a couple of questions on the chat box sent by a few members. I would like to ask the first question. The first question is, we feel the research findings from ICAR institutions and agri universities do not reach the grassroots level farmers. What is your reply?
Mr. Lakshmi,
Thank you
there
very
are a few questions in.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Professor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. You are right. In the sense, there are kind of there are practices coming up, there are technologies coming up, and then they every year the new practices are recommended. For example, new pesticides. For example, new biofertilizer formulations, biocide, and so on. Now, given the density of the farmers, as I told you, 50% of the country is the farming community. Given that, that's where we talked of research intensity, extension intensity. Now, extension work per se is with the state departments. Every state department, every state ministries, they are charged with the extension work. Now, all the same, from the central agencies, there are what are called as Krishi Vigyan Kendras, district science centers in each district. But then, given the district spread, each district has 10 to 12 blocks or talukas. Each taluka has something like 100 to 120 villages. Now that makes about 1,000 to 1,200 villages or minimum in each district. Now to reach, and in each village there could be 500 to 1,000 farming families. Now given this, it's a mammoth task for just the agency to do it. That's where we are talking of farmer to farmer extension, ICTs in extension, new tools, smartphones, advisories that are going on. All these are going on, but then I must say that still a lot needs to be done for extension and transfer of technologies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Because the next question in the chat video, it goes like this: government and all its departments take farmers for granted. That is what the feeling we are having now. So far, the FCI godowns are full with grains. Government is happy now. Institutions simply produce agri graduates for bank and departments work, not to serve the farmers or not to become agri entrepreneurs. How do you answer this, sir?
Thank you. These are the people have different views, different. As I said, first of all, the number of graduates coming out has to be increased. That there is a real demand. There is a need to get into different arenas. Second is granaries are full, but the farmers' pockets are not, and that's where we have to bring in remunerative farming in a very big way. Till that happens, the motivation for the farmer is how long he will produce, or definitely the farmer will not want his son to become a farmer. A doctor would like to have his son as a doctor, an engineer, a businessman, a son as a businessman, but a farmer says, no, I don't want. So, so you can understand the problem. So, unless we have the farming remunerative, so that they can make a living, real, respectable living. That's where I'm telling repeatedly, it's the profit and the prestige which will finally guide the farming in this country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions, please? Any other questions? Mr.
Yeah, this
Shirish?
Shirish again. Yep. Thank you. I have a question. Professor Ayyappan, in the event of COVID epidemic, we see that the exports are not happening. Where do you see the futures of Indian produce exports in the coming years? Thank you.
Thank you very much. See, please appreciate that we are also a large market. India, 130, as I said in the beginning, 17 to 18% of the global population. So we are a large producer of food grains. At the same time, we are also a large market. Now, one thing is the export was being promoted, emphasized because there will be a demand pull. There will be a bigger price realization. So the export dimension came in. But as you said rightly, in the last 3 months, yes, there has been a problem with regard to exports. So now the point is people are looking into domestic markets. In India itself, there are high-end markets, there are middle-class markets, there are other levels of markets. So now the producers are like chain of companies. It could be Reliance, Market Fresh, several of them. So they are looking into different options. That's where I repeatedly said, don't sell the primary produce as it is. Add some value. Add some, maybe could be good packaging. Put some value addition will immediately increase the price by at least two-folds. So now we are looking into these kinds of changes to address the domestic market itself. So in the coming years, we understand that the way we market things will change. It will be farmer to consumer direct. It will be largely Indian market that will be covered. So all these kinds of things will happen. Let's see how things go on. We are trying to look at crisis as an opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think we have now completed the round of questions. I hope. I like to thank the speaker on behalf of all of us for taking the time to speak with us. I now request the organizer of the meeting, Ms. Rajini, to please close the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Ayyappan. It was a very informative session, and I hope all the participants have benefited with this. And I thank the participants also for joining this call. Thank you, everyone. I'm ending the call. Have a good day.
Thank you.